Yo, it's your boy and your other boys sleeping soundly down here. So let's start this out. This is 2020 Equinox 2025 Sword and Board, and we're starting. If you guys know the names of the people in the fight, just try to let me know as clearly as you can, and I'll be watching that. So let's get started. It's Bacon versus Ash. Okay. It looks like I think that's I have never met her, but I think that's Lady Gorg talking in the background announcing the fight, so that's helpful. It's Bacon versus Ash. That's good. What is the format here? Go back. It looks like they got a simultaneous kill. This is DeVry. Hey, DeVry. Okay. Thanks for checking in, buddy. I think that was a simul. Is this pits or... I guess we start in the corner. Ooh. So it looks like we have a nice big ring. I like that a lot because a lot of the ones that we've watched in the past couple of months have been like very, very small rings. I like how they really aggressively took the middle there. Like, they understood that they needed to not get cornered. I feel like you don't need to charge. All you need to do is kind of like walk into the threat range. And you can kind of circle around them unless they're super aggressive. It just depends on how much endurance and energy you think that you've got there for you. It looked like the first fight was kind of like a simultaneous exchange of crosses. Oh, I like the shield attempt, the shield kick attempt there. That was fun. I'm not really sure how shield kicking plays into the meta, because I don't really use it. It feels like very exposy to me, so I'm not sure it's something that I would use. It's just fun. Is that it? Okay. All right. Okay, we got Dome versus Flat Strap. That was a big one. Yeah, it looked like the fighter in the brown wanted to hit the bottom corner of that kite shield. Okay, good circling here. We got those circling just a little bit. Whoa, there's a shoulder wrap attempt. Alright, looked like she got the arm taken out. So, one thing that's worth looking at here is like, this is just too many high crosses. This is too many high crosses from both fighters. Watch this again. It's like almost 10. And we try to wrap shot towards the end, right? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. A couple letters. 5. I think there was like a 6th one in there. And there was like a bunch in the last round. And it's just, you have to be able to threaten all the quadrants. I felt like, I don't know if this is Ash or Bacon, because they said that at the beginning of it. But it looked like they attempted some leg shots, and they attempted a shoulder wrap. That's Bacon. Okay. But there wasn't, like, a lot of setup here either, right? So these are all kind of straight shots. That looked like kind of a fake. Let's see here. What was this one? I want to see what this was right before the face shot, because it looked like there was like a loop to the outside, right? So that looked like an outside loop into what was supposed to be a shoulder wrap, but it looked like it kind of misfired into the face down here. That's okay, that happens. But I think what we needed here was we needed that shoulder wrap earlier. Like, you can use repeated high crosses to beat people, but you need to use what's a strategy called a cross trap. And it's when you kind of pin down their sword side while you exercise some lateral movement. And you do it kind of repeatedly with the hope that if they try to like leave the cross trap by like trying to throw out to get away from it, that's when they like get hit in the arm and you get like the follow up there, right? But it's kind of too many. And we're not, I feel like Bacon over here, they're doing some small stutters, but I think Ash was their name. They are not responding to that fake, right? So Bacon's doing some short stunts, short stutters, short pumps with their hand to try to elicit a response. But this other fighter's not biting on that, and that's okay. So what you have to do when you're trying to execute some fakes and your opponent's not biting is you need to try to decide, like, okay, does my fake need to be bigger? Like, are they not reacting quickly enough to this? Or are they not reading into my body language deeply enough for this short stutter to work? Then you would try, like, a bigger one. Or if they're just, like, kind of looking at it, and they're like, I know that that's a fake, I'm not going to bite on that. Then you might try, like, an even shorter stutter. Or you might try to throw a safe shot and then stutter again later when you've increased their... the tension in the fight by throwing some safe shots and trying to set that kind of stuff up. But you kind of like, you got to modify your fake. If it's not working on the other guy, you got to be paying attention to what kind of reaction you're getting out of it. That was a good attempt by Bacon to throw like a shoulder wrap since we've already crossed too many times. I think that the problem is that shoulder wraps typically don't hit without some kind of setup. So you can do flat cross, shoulder wrap, like as a real quick 1-2, and a real quick 2-piece combo as an easy setup, or stutter them out of position. I also felt like some of the stutters were from like a non-threatening range, right? Like, you have to build some real anxiety in your opponent to get stutters and fakes to work against them. So you have to be kind of thinking about, like, well, why didn't they bite on it, right? Was I too far away? Stutter too small? Stutter too big? Did I not prove that I'm a legitimate threat to that quadrant yet? Like, I haven't swung at that part yet? Like, those are the kinds of questions that you've got to ask. So, good lateral. Good circling. I'm not sure what the call was here. Let's see, watch it again. Right, we have shoulder wraps out here. It looked like they did not get through. It looked like it got... it looked like we got stuck on the rim of the dome shield and kind of try to like wiggle our way through that. So that can count in Amtgard. That will almost never count in Bellegarde because you're just not getting enough force to it. You usually want to try to go to a different quadrant. You can't just kind of pound that same shoulder wrap again and again and again. Not the way that you can with like a cross trap, because it's almost like a shoulder wrap around to get sufficient force. There's almost like two power generation phases to it, right? There's like you have to rotate into the shot to get it to go forward, and then you have to rotate out of the shot to get it to snap back to you and go around the shield, right? And you can kind of think about that as two distinct beats, whereas like a cross trap is literally just push and you catch the bounce back, push and you catch the bounce back, and it feels a lot more like it takes like one turn as opposed to using 2 turns. So I think that what Ash should have done here is like, if that shoulder wrap didn't work out for you, you want to try to go to a lower quadrant and hit like a body or something like that. I think that they had the right idea where they were trying to shift out and around like this and get some lateral footwork going on, but it kind of just doesn't work that way for shoulder wraps in the same way that it does for high crosses and cross traps, because the wrap, it takes more startup to get that to work. One of these guys is Tylenol. Ishtar and Tylenol. Okay. Thank you. Ishtar and Tylenol. Okay, they just said it. I heard her. Okay, it looks like Ishtar got hit. Let's go. So we got hand-matched scenario here. So I am not a fan of Tylenol's attempt to open the fight with a shot over here. It's not even really a wrap shot. They're kind of just shooting out towards something that they see. So like in a hand-matched scenario, you have to think about shot 1. The first thing you're going to go for is out of our quadrants. Let's see if I can draw this out. What was it? Control's a square. And then we got line. So your primary targets are going to be, number 1 is going to be this quadrant. Number 2 is going to be this quadrant. Number 3 is going to be up here some of the time. And down here is quadrant 4. So like most of your shots are safest to go to quadrant 1 because it's just like a vertical chop towards your opponent. Shot towards quadrant 2 over here are like hip shots, right? So they're still fast, but they leave you a little bit more open since you're leaving that high quadrant guard. 3 is the mix-up where you're like, you've got them so occupied by these 2 quadrants over here that you're like, okay, can't land anything. I'm going to try to go to quadrant 3. And then quadrant 4 is like, I'm going to style on this motherfucker and try to like footwork them out of their shoes. So I think we went straight to quadrant 3 when we should have started working with quadrant 1 and try to work into quadrant 2. If you're bold, you can work with quadrant 2 first if you have like a really fast and snappy setup and super good defense. But it's just not a great call in my opinion. It's not with like the kind of open-handed high cross that you need to wrap around to hit that quadrant. It's kind of just like a diagonal chop at this open thing. And you kind of have to assume that like, it's probably a bait, and what you really want to do if they're hanging it out open is stutter at it and then hit them in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. So it's just like a flat snap up that way. And it looks like he didn't quite get through. It looks like when we came around to the side, we got like a good cross to quadrant 1, but I think that we could have won this. It looks like, not a cross, sorry, but like a slot to quadrant 1. And it looks like we probably could have won this without taking that leg. Let's go back. See if we got anything else. I don't know if you caught that, but we did like a little body stutter. I really liked that. Let's see if we can slow it down. Right there. That was really good. And the reaction that we got from it was Tylenol kind of stepped back. I'm wondering, like, well, how can you play off that, right? Like, you got to kind of think about, so what does that communicate about Tylenol's defense, right? Like, what do they have in mind? So they're not interested in counter-striking you right now. they're going to try to step back and kind of defend themselves. So that's one thing that cues. Maybe you could, if they're going to step back on step 1, you could step forward with a stutter and see what they kind of, what defense they assume. So if we look at this sword that's right here, it looks like we're kind of trying to hit an upper quadrant defense. So that might be a good cue that we could step in with our stutter halfway and then step in with a hip wrap on step 2 if we know that he's going to kind of raise this sword up when we juke our body at him. But it looks like we kind of just didn't really plan off of that, and we just kind of went forward. Right there. Or maybe we waited too long or something like that. So like a good thing that you can do is when you stutter like that and then kind of back off, you could back off yourself a little bit to just reset the situation, let them relax a little bit, and you've done the reconnaissance to figure out what are they going to do when I stutter at them. Step in, stutter again, and then throw that hip wrap, right? Because we saw that stutter made them go into a high guard and step back. We just need to get a little bit closer to them. I think that the Tylenol here won pretty much just by having like good speed and good accuracy. Just saw that opening and sniped it. When you have a leg advantage like this, what we should have done with what Ishtar probably should have done is try to circle like this way to try to get Tylenol's sword to kind of clash with his shield and make sure that he has to rotate in some form to address you, and not just kind of like, well, I got a leg, I'm gonna go straight in. So that's the kind of changes that I would make there. Alright, that's a lot of left-handed people down here. Let's see if we've got names for these two guys. Crashes into black. Okay, yeah, it's got his name on his shield. What we got? So I liked the little footwork setup from this fighter here. There's kind of like a little bit of sideways hopping. Let's see if we can kind of slow that down and catch that. So it's like step, step, and then step back into position. That's like a tiny bit of lateral movement to try to get them offline a little bit. I think I don't like that we kind of just stepped back into the position that we were in, right? Like we kind of stepped, if we had like a center line here, we kind of stepped offline and then we stepped back to the line like this. So my awful arrow, what I want to see is more like step across this line to get like a bigger opening. Maybe not like this far, but like just a little bit further, because if you catch them when they're swinging, you might get more of an opening here. I want to see if it looked like that was kind of just a lot of setup for a leg shot and like a counter leg shot at that. I think what we needed from Crash here was, it looked like we kind of just threw straight when we saw an opening. And I think like fighters beyond a very minimal level, like you have to set up your attack, especially when you've got heavier swords. You can't really just like out-snipe people. The human reaction speed is just like kind of all sits around a very similar level. There are a few people that are like freakishly fast, but since the shot timing is like a full half second, it doesn't really save them that much from those kinds of situations, right? So we need some kind of setup here. I felt like maybe like a safe chop to the hand and a step back or something would have worked well for us. I also kind of question the merit of like both of us are sword hip forward right now in a hand masked scenario when we discussed that like this is quadrant 2 that we would hit, right? So if this was a righty on righty situation, the low quadrant shots are more like shots 3 and 4, essentially. But it kind of changes how those levels work out a little bit. So I feel like shifting this hip into that, making this easier, knowing that this is like our secondary shot. I'm not sure that that's kind of like how I would address this. And we've also both got kind of like this shield tilt that's like open, right? Like there's a I feel like the shields need to be tilted to cover the sword side a little bit more, but we're like very open here. We're not creating like coverage for our arms or coverage for our hips or anything like that with the shield. So it's almost just like the single sword, and then the shield is like loaded around to this other side where we have like the least appetizing quadrants that you can swing at in a hand match situation. So I'm just kind of not sure why both guys seem to agree to want to fight single sword in this situation. Maybe it's just like what they're used to or something like that. But those are items that you would want to address in hand match scenarios. It's like, I want to hide those primary targets because to hit shield side, they have to drive a lot deeper and open themselves up a lot more. So I don't need to defend those quite as much. That was good footwork on Cal's part here, where we got our leg. We got our leg down here, and then we worked out and around to try to snipe for shots. I really like how when we swung out to the left, we actually kind of threw shots at the right. I think we got this shoulder in the back on that final hit. That looked really good. And if he kind of spun it to the most sensible location, which is to protect his sword side, and Cal just kind of dropped it over top and across. So that was good setup and good footwork. No, we just have these guys. This is Ishtar and Tylenol again, I think. Let's go back. I wonder if these are mixed up or something. So just to illustrate this again, Ishtar's first shot here, if we've got these quadrants, just to show this one more time. This is our safest target to shoot at. This is our less safe shot target, less safe quadrant to shoot at. This is even less safe, and this is kind of the worst one to hit. And we went straight to this quadrant, kind of raw, and then got bonked for it. So it kind of just snapped that arm off with that easy, like, one quadrant. And we need to, in this kind of situation, it looks like Ishtar is standing their ground and not really moving. You can't do that when you're down an arm. You have to fade back, and you have to move laterally to try to like get them to mess up their footwork, range, or positioning. You can't rely on your offhand, especially like if you're a lefty, this is your weaker hand now, like against a tower shield. You're going to have a hell of a time wrapping them, so you really got to move your feet. Look, he almost got him. But these fights are cut in a way that's making it hard to track people's names. I think this was Crash and Cal again. What do we got? Okay, it looked like I thought that arm came through. That's good. Let's watch the fight once through. Okay, I like the lateral here. I think, well, let's, oh, what a good scoop. What a great scoop. All right, let's go back. Okay. Yeah, it looked like we kind of came straight in for the leg. Okay, yeah, this was just a straight shot to the leg, right? on that quadrant 2 that we talked about. We kind of moved around to the side and we just threw straight at this leg. So what I would recommend for, I think you guys said that this was Cal. So Cal needs to start working on good hip wraps here, because like legging people is fine, but I feel like one thing that it's more powerful in cross game situations, right? Because you can kick shields, you can knock people over, you can duck walk them and that kind of thing. But one thing to think about is like if you're not going to do any of that stuff, the guy that's legged now, like he's sitting down behind his shield. He's not going to make any more footwork errors because he has none, right? So he's going to sit down and he's going to counter strike you because that's all that he can do at this point. He might like stutter and hit you if you kind of come in and you seem like a little bit wary about your defense. But his options are limited. But because the options are limited, it's really hard to trick people when they're legged, because it kind of simplifies the fight for them a little bit. So I really like to get people in the body and get them one shot to try to like not get into this situation if possible, because I feel like I just reduces my options here, and it's kind of not what I want. And the other part of it is this hip. When you're standing at full height, let's go back. Let's see if we get like a good, yeah, there's no good view here. You can kind of have to imagine Crash standing up, but we're going to draw an imaginary like Expedition 33 Gustav leg down here. This is a little bit more of a leg right here. So if you imagine, what was his name? Cal's reach is a sphere. This tab right here. This isn't perfectly centered, but the things that out of the things that he can reach, this hip area in the blue here, this is much closer to the edge of this sphere than this leg, which is a good bit further away. So you kind of have to expose yourself to a lot more risk to get in and hit people in the leg. Like the lower and lower you go, it's another reason that you really want to train that hip shot up. So I think that especially like as a left-handed fighter, like that hip wrap is your bread and butter. I would really recommend that Cal kind of work on that, like not only throwing the hip wrap, but also kind of setting up for it too. And so these circles out here that Cal's doing, this is pretty good, right? It's creating a little bit of confusion for Crash. But the issue is twofold. We got a little bit too close while we were doing those circles. And it was also that the circles didn't really communicate anything threatening to Crash. Crash was just like, I'm just going to wait until I think his hand is not in a set position. Then I'm going to counterattack with that scoop, which was super sharp. But I think it was like, Cal here is like halfway to the correct idea, which is like you need to start from outside of range, like kind of pulsing at the thing that you want them to think that you are going to swing at, so that you can swing at something else, right? So a moving sword is always a lot more distracting than a still sword, but it's not enough to kind of like gesticulate with it, right? You need to communicate a concrete intent to them that looks like they are going to hit me with a high cross. They are going to hit me with a shoulder wrap. They are going to hit me with a money shot. And not just like they are going to probably swing at me with a sword. It's just not specific enough of an idea to try to project on the opponent. You need to project something very concrete, or else they're just either not going to react to it, or you're not going to be like on the same wavelength, and they'll do something that you haven't predicted, and you'll just end up with like a simul or getting killed, which I think is kind of more or less what happened here. Okay, it's crushing Cal again. Go back. I like this sweep out into a stutter right here. I think that it was like a good gesture, but I think we picked the wrong shot there. I think that sweep ended up kind of low. So we swept down low to throw low, and it just wasn't, it didn't create an opening for us. I feel like if we swept low and then threw like a flat wrap high where we have shield coverage on our forearm, I felt like that would have been a little bit better. But it seemed like we had kind of like a stilted, like we faked at the quadrant that we wanted to throw at, and it just didn't open anything up for us, right? So it's like right here, sweep, and then low. I think we were also kind of like tucked into our shield in that advance, so it was just not safe to swing yet. So maybe like from this sweep, what we could have done is step this way and flat wrap over here, and that'll get our equipment high, and that sideways movement will also close off these quadrants a little bit. I don't think we're in the corner yet, but I think we're getting close to it. So I think that would also reset our positioning a little bit. We've also got kind of a lean here, right? And I kind of like this lean because it exposes this shoulder a little bit. So I think we get the thing that we wanted to swing at. So another option is that if we lean this way, we can try to draw this shot, and then we can counter it with a scoop or like a flicker, which is just like you just throw your hand kind of up like this. It's like the opposite of a scoop. Like scoop is up like this, flicker is up like that. A flicker I think works a little bit better for hand match situations. I don't know why we dropped all of our equipment there. Not sure if that's a rule or something. Okay. I like the vomiting furry shield. I think that's a punch. I see our elbow out. Okay, I think this is 2 punches. I can't read this. It's Alaric, I think, in the back. Yeah, punches. What do we got here? We got good lateral. Yeah, it got dark-sided for it. Aldrich and... Okay. So I think what happened here is the fighter in the black got dark-sided because we're kind of projecting. Our sword is leaning this way, so this kind of looks like a cross to me. So I think we got dark-sided for basically like displaying our intent ahead of time, and then like also kind of swinging at it, right? So I think you need to think about like this would be a good position to like stutter a high cross and then throw money or a hip wrap or something like that. I think that would work. But if you communicate that you're going to throw a high cross, you're probably going to get dark-sided for it. I would argue that like there isn't a lot of value in communicating that you are going to high cross at someone, because it's sword and board. High crossing is like kind of just factually understood as something that can happen at any time. It's the safest shot in the game. It's probably like the best shot to throw in sword and board, period. You can reasonably safely default to that shot. So there's not much point in like projecting that shot, in my opinion, unless you want to go somewhere else. So we kind of just got a clean dark side for that. Okay, we got like a low projection here to like kind of a height shot. Let's see where this goes. Oh, button. Okay, so that was like a slot at the hand. I couldn't tell if this was going towards the hand or towards the shoulder in the back. So this is probably too much extension. I feel like this fighter felt very confident that they could kind of attack from max range and then like whip themselves out kind of quickly. Well, I think this isn't like, in terms of extensions, this isn't too bad, because the knee's like still over the chest for the most part. It's when your chest gets past your front knee that you've probably extended a little bit too far. But I think that this is still kind of, if you're going to extend like this, you need to bump this shield forward, especially with a punch, so that you are covering that arm, because this is very snipeable here. And the best part about this, right, is that if you're throwing this long-range snipe, like, well, what does your opponent have to do to hit you? They have to get close and wrap around you, right? Like with a shoulder wrap or a hip wrap or something like that. So if you move your shield forward to here, that indicates to this guy, I have to close and then wrap the shoulder or the back around that, right? Okay, you can take a timeout, my friend. Let's see, let me get rid of this guy. All right, so if you've got your shield forward, essentially it kind of can function to draw people to kind of overclose on you and wrap around your shield or wrap around your hip. And since we've got like our weight loaded in this leg, it kind of gives us like a really easy retreat this way. So that might be a good way of kind of drawing somebody out. So that's two in a row. Okay, so one issue we had here was we had four shots to this quadrant over here. So that's kind of repeating the same quadrant and the same attack like too many times in a row. I think it's okay to do like two, but then for the third strike, you want to fake at the quadrant that you just threw at and throw somewhere else, because it basically like gradually builds up this context that the fighter understands, like, hey, you're going to come up my sword side, so I'm just going to stack my defense over there and not really try to defend the other quadrants that you might throw at. So you need to kind of spread their attention across all quadrants. If you sensitize them towards these crosses on this side, it's going to pull their shield to this side too, and it'll open up these other sides. That was good. That's good. Let's go back and see why we lost this arm. Go back, back, back. Okay, we just basically eventually stuffed out the fighter on the right. And we got kind of frustrated and tried to overclose. And we got like a good counter in there. So that's solid. I like the jump to try to go over the top, but that's kind of tough to make that work. I think the main thing for the fighter in white is the defensive position that they're kind of taking here. This sword is vertical, and unfortunately, that only covers attacks that are kind of come in horizontally like this, right? So the main problem is that, like, if we kind of just throw inside here. Let me try the quadrants for you guys again. So if we got 4 quadrants. So we don't have like a complete guard for this quadrant here. We're really only guarding this side of the quadrant. So we can still hit, I lost my, there it is. We can still hit this quadrant if we go kind of down on the inside or up to the forearm from here. So where we really want this guard to close this off is we want to hold it kind of this way in house guard, right? So we get like a nice diagonal platform here. Excuse me, a nice diagonal platform here, and that's just statistically more likely to cover shots that are going to come at this angle. I think we kind of didn't keep our distance enough from this other fighter. We did a little bit, but probably not to the extent that we needed to. I like that the fighter in the white tried to take the offensive by kind of juking down to throw up over top like that. I think it was kind of a last-ditch thing, but I think it might have been better to kind of just pause and wait a little bit and try to draw people out and see if we can get the other fighter who has both equipment to make a mistake. It is very, very hard to come back in this situation, but you have to play it very conservatively and defensively. It's really tough to open people up that way. That's a really good dark side. I like that. I like what the fighter in blue here is doing a lot. So we had a good mix of different shots. We didn't repeat anything, right? So we started out with we had like a cross here, and that's fine. I think a shot to the outside. Now, we had one cross to kind of invite another cross, and then we went for a dark side, and we got it. And then we kind of just slowly and patiently closed on them. And you can see that there was a cross trap on the end there too, where we kind of missed the shoulder wrap there, but we decided that we were kind of safe at that range. And we missed the leg, but then we walked in. We had a cross here, and we're moving off in this direction to make that cross trap work for us. So that's good stuff. There's like a lot of things that this guy did right on this particular fight. It was good stuff. I've got a second one. I felt like I don't really have commentary for the fighter in purple on that one because they seemed like their immediate plan just didn't work out for them. They didn't get to do much else. It's a good call. That's kind of just like an exchange. It's an exchange of crosses. And we kind of just lost out on it on accuracy. Fox in blue, thank you. It's Fox. They're just advancing dark sides there. So, and there's good stuff here for the fighter in purple as well, right? Like we had this crossover this way, and then we stepped a little bit to their right, our left, to try to get the wrap over the top. It just kind of didn't pan out for them, I think. I think what we kind of needed there, like a re-strategizing. So the main issue I'm seeing for the fighter in purple is like our game is like very honest. We're kind of walking up and we're going to try to throw like our combo and beat them like in an exchange, basically like an even exchange of blows. But I think what the fighter in purple is probably missing is like the elements of misdirection on the outside of the fight, like moving side to side, stuttering, faking, that kind of thing like that. It may just be that Fox has more experience than ours in fighting, so they were kind of able to just kind of ride out that salvo of blows. But you basically need to, on the outside, you have to figure out some kind of way of like misdirecting your opponent. You have to, if you're trying to, I call it trying to beat someone on attributes, where you're trying to walk up and just bang it out and beat them. You're trying to say, I'm faster than you, I'm more precise than you, I'm stronger than you, I could throw more times than you. Here, my defense is cleaner than yours. And I think that it's like, it's a great way to fight when you are absolutely certain that you are quite a bit better than the other guy. But when you don't have that benefit, you cannot do that. You have to start misdirecting them, misleading them with like feint, stutters, lateral steps, that kind of thing. Because it's just it's too much of a toss-up to beat someone that way when their skill level is even like remotely close to yours. It's a cool shield. You know, punch shield. Wow, that's like one of the biggest shields I've seen. Okay. Let's see how we handle this. A hand match too. So just a good deep hip wrap. This is very cleanly edited too. There's like, when the fight is over, they're jumping forward to the next fight really quickly. I think that's like great for entertainment purposes. It makes it a little bit hard to restream it because the arrows back and forth are taking me too far. Yeah, she does do great work. This is good stuff. I think we can all take a note from this. So what happened here? So I think this is kind of just like raw hip wraps. And I think the smaller shield actually won out because we were better able to shift it down towards our sword side to cover ourselves in this simultaneous exchange, right? I question the value of a shield this big in a one-on-one tournament, especially when you're hand matched, because I don't want to draw the quadrant diagram again, but like the main quadrant that people are going to be attacking is here and here. People aren't going to go over here except in rare circumstances, or over here. So this is probably like a great shield to use in tournaments. But this is probably not, this is a great shield to use in like field battles because it covers your legs from pole arms and javelins and that kind of stuff. But like in a one-on-one tournament, I feel like a shield this big is going to be kind of a liability because it's heavier, it's slower, it's harder to move it around, and it's hard to swing past it too. And it's the main benefit that you're getting is it's covering more area, but it's covering quadrants that are like accessory quadrants that are not going to be common for people to swing at. So I kind of I gotta wonder if it would be wise for this fighter to like get a smaller shield for tournaments and kind of practice with that, and then just use the big one for field games and things like that. I think part of what I liked here is it seemed like this fighter on the right, they started with kind of a lean to their torso like this, but it looked like they actually straightened their back to throw that hip wrap. So we're kind of leaning to the right. And we didn't really straighten too much, but I think we used that to kind of get around and get a better angle. And it looks like our left-handed friend just kind of hit low and hit them in the legs, so they just had more precise hip wrap placement. You want to try to make the other person throw to your hip first, if possible, and not kind of just like jump towards it. More setups there, I think, would have helped a lot. Let's see what this one looks like. Okay, I liked that we threatened this quadrant here, but we didn't go for it entirely, but we did it just enough to try to get that shield a little bit out of our way. This is also tough because they're using sword foot forward, but they're using a punch to kind of like cross this shield over and cover this hand. So that was a smart way of trying to pull it out of position. I think we just lost our arm for it. Okay, so I think what we needed to do here, we can see that this fighter is coming in with kind of like a low hand position. I think though maybe like a good strategy to use would be to try to drop low and feint at this quadrant with the hip, and then try to flat wrap over here, especially like as we step in this direction to try to keep ourselves a little bit safe. So like bring it, kind of just impulse at this guard that they're already presenting toward us and safely attack this spot, especially after we had the setup on that shield side shoulder. So we got a little close, and that's why we lost that leg. Lots of these situations are kind of hard to deal with. I want to see. Yeah, this is tough because, like, once you're legged, you have this massive shield to deal with, and it's really tough to, like, get around it. Like, faking it out is a little bit tough because it's not going to move quite as much as you would need it to. I think that the kind of raw hip shot or maybe leg shot was the intent from the outside here was kind of not what I would go for, because we're just not close here, right? We're like a foot shy of where we needed to be to hit this sword side hip. So I think what I might have tried to do in this situation is try to chop down between the sword and the shield, not to hit them, but like if you get your sword in between there, a lot of the times people try to open flat to you, and then you can take that outside chop and then turn it into another vertical chop. You're basically trying to blade beat them offline by slipping in between their sword and shield, and then kind of prying it open and swinging it around. I don't think a leg shot is going to work against this specific shield here. I think this was like not a bad plan. But mostly, I think that the main error was we need to not get to this position at all. We know that our opponent has like a really big tower shield, so we need to try to stay far away from them. I think the lean here is maybe the culprit, where like since our torso is not like vertical, we're kind of dropped over to the side here. That makes lateral movement and backward movement a lot more challenging. I think it might have been wiser to stand straight and make sure that we're kind of like able to move with enough agility to keep them out of the range at which they can throw legs, make them try to stretch out to hit our leg to try to create that opening for us. I think that's the main thing that I'm seeing there. It's just like a tough position when you get to here. It's real tough to win, especially when they can like bash you or shove you over or whatever. Or duck walk you.
Did he get the back? Someone interpret that for my brain. Thanks.
Ooh. Man, this is a really good punch shield work. This was like 4 different transitions between the dark side position and the offside position. This is really good. I'm going to slow this down a little bit. Working real independently, real solid. We had some really good side to side in there as well, like on the approach. There was like a step this way, and then this way, and then this way, and then this way. It was a really solid way of approaching where we're not getting closer than we need to get, which I really like, but we're also making sure that we're kind of confusing their understanding of our position in space by moving laterally to make sure we're never quite online with them. That was really solid. I think the things that I would add here, let me check to make sure that I'm right, but I think we didn't really have any shield side wraps here. Yeah, it's kind of crosses in reverse wraps. I think you definitely need to work in shield side wraps there. I think we had like one straight chop to the outside here, but that was it. That was a great drive. I think for... It's going to be tough to come up with anything for the fighter in green because they kind of like just backed up and threw the best that they could. I think maybe like when this plan started to go south, the fighter in green probably should have cleared way the fuck out. But instead they kind of just hung out and tried to bang with them a little bit. And this person's shield positioning is so good with this punch that I don't think that I would want to kind of stand and bang with this person unless I was like really sure that I had a understanding of their rhythm, especially since like in that position this smaller punch shield is going to move around a lot better than this teardrop shaped punch shield because it's like smaller and lighter and easier to throw around. Okay, there we got like a shoulder wrap. Let's see. I think that actually came out kind of low. Yeah, that was like... That's very low. That ended up being like more like a hip wrap. I don't know if they just like missed or something like that or slipped or weren't in the position that they thought we would be. Okay, thanks for coming by, DeVry. I hope you're able to stick around. I don't know if this was intended to be a shoulder wrap here, but you can kind of see how open this was. And if this was going to be a hip wrap, we're kind of throwing this from too high. So usually when you throw like a low quadrant shots, you need to bend at your knees a little bit to bring yourself down closer to them. And not just kind of like, you don't usually throw a hip wrap from like a totally upright position, usually duck down a little bit to throw it. So I'm not sure which one this was supposed to be. Ooh, good wrap, good wrap. That was close. Close to shoulder. think there's kind of like a little pause in here. So I think one thing that I get concerned about is when you basically we had like a cross shot in here. We had a brief pause, and then we decided to throw a shoulder wrap because we thought that we would be able to beat them to it. I think that the fighter in the black kind of lucked out on that one. But like when you have that pause where you're waiting to react to what someone is going to do, I believe that you should just back out of that situation and try to reclose, because what that lets you do is it takes it away from being a game of pure reaction speed and lets you kind of impress some intent on the opponent about like what quadrant you want to hit them with, right? So if you want to go high cross to shoulder wrap, I think that you should just throw both shots immediately and then back out. I don't think that you should close and then pause after the first shot and throw the second shot, especially because like the situation where that would be tempting to do that is if you have a very tall fighter versus a very short fighter. Like the short fighter is kind of at an advantage if they can stay inside and defend themselves, because the tall person has a lot of mechanical difficulty like throwing wraps and stuff around their shield. It's still a lot harder for the tall guy to get comfortable, and the short person may be like not confident in their ability to reclose again. But these guys are the same height, right? Like you can always just close again. I think it's best to just like, if you are coming in, you should either be throwing the offense on, or you should just execute what you had planned and then step out if it does not work and replan, and just don't take it to a game of pure reaction speed, because you're not going to win that unless you know for a fact that you are way better than the other person, and that's not usually a safe gamble to make. Black tunic is Vaughn. Okay. Yeah, we saw this. Okay, next fight. Punch. I think these are both punches. Let's go back. I'm not sure if it's a punch or a strap. I think it might be a strap. All right. This is... Let's go back. This is just too many high crosses in a row. I felt like we had a really good, distant, kind of like good like circling and a lot of good patience, but our shot variety just like was not there for either person. We had like one or two attempts at a dark side, but I felt like the confidence in the dark side is not quite there for either guy. So what I would probably do here, so like this dark side here, I'm talking about the fighter in the gray. I think is it here? Or maybe right there. Yeah, this is like kind of too shallow, right? Like we hit the bottom of their shield. I think the main thing, so we're like right, I think right here, this needed to land instead of here. This needs to land more like up here, right? And the other thing is that this punch shield, this needs to be forward and covering the arm, so like here. instead, right? So I'm just going to draw this sword so it's a little bit easier for people to see. You want to kind of commit to that and throw it a little bit higher. And I think we also had an issue of timing where, like, when you dark side, what you're trying to do is interrupt someone's high cross with it. So this was a great time to dark side for either guy because both guys wanted to cross and they were trying to just pick the other guy apart with accurate crosses. That's fine. That was the right idea. But we need to be a little bit bolder and more confident with that strategy. Particularly on the use of the punch shield fighter, right? Like, this fighter is kind of using this punch shield as a strap, like they're holding it really close to their body. And I just don't think that that takes advantage of what punch shields are good at. Like, punch shields serve you best when they're extended into your opponent's cone of attack. It blocks off more angles. It's harder to get around. It stops wrap shots before they're able to turn over. I think that that needs to be forward. If you don't want to, like, put it the whole way forward, you can do sword foot forward, where this is my sword hand and this is my punch shield hand, and kind of extend my punch shield forward like that. I think it's probably not quite the right stance. Also, I just saw that this is strap on the right over here. This is a strap shield. I think this is just mainly like both guys need to build confidence in their dark sides and try to, like, play off that high cross, right? Like, if you catch yourself throwing 2 or 3 high crosses in a row, like, that's fine. Just stutter and then shoulder wrap, or stutter and money shot. Stutter and throw the hip wrap. Just do a fake high cross afterwards and throw something else. It's a pretty easy kill.
I'm sorry, I'm watching this fight. Trying to record the other.
That's a good wrap.
Sorry, I'm watching this fight.
I like how they kind of trapped the strap shield with the punch shield. They kind of, like, moved it the whole way over. I think the shot had already hit at this point, but this shield pressure here kind of turned this shield into a shield for themselves too. That was really neat to see.
Trying to record the other.
I think I think they were maybe surprised that they got around and hit that arm, but I feel like we needed to follow up strong and try to, like, hit them in the leg or something once you know that you've got that arm and you see that they're trying to switch. Like, don't let them switch, especially, like, when you have this smaller piece of equipment here. You want to keep that offensive pressure on once you've gotten yourself an advantage.
And then we're back here.
It looks like we got into the same kind of situation as before there in the previous fight. I think it looks like Lady Gorg is, like, turning from fight to fight and capturing the most that she can because they're, like, out of sync, which I appreciate. Okay. I'm going to go back. I want to call it out. This fighter here is using lots of different stances that communicate lots of different things, and I think that that is very good. So we've got, I think it's even further back here. So I really like this stance. This reminds me of Unknowns fighting from Keep. This turns into a really good, if you can pull this shield out of the way while you loop around into a shoulder wrap. It's good stuff. And I like that this is a hand-matched fighting situation, so this is like a left-handed person here. So I think creating that sword side coverage with the shield is really good. And we're using lots and lots of different stances. It's good footwork, good drive there. Kind of didn't work out. I think... So I think mostly, I think the kinds of things that we tried to impress on our opponent with the different stances that we used on this side, we kind of didn't really capitalize on them very much. It feels like our hip wrap was, like, not super confident here. And we also kind of, like, dove into the corner. I think I would want to, like, at the end of this drive, I think instead of disengaging and going this way, I might have disengaged and gone, like, this way out around instead. because we kind of put ourselves in the corner. And when you're in the corner, right, you lose out on a lot of defense because you're limited on the number of steps that you can take backwards, right? You can kind of think of like the area behind you that you can step as a currency that lets you kind of pay to protect yourself, right? Because if someone comes up to you and stutters or faints, the way that you want to react to that usually is, if you're not ready to counter-strike them, is just take a step back and make them take a step forward to kind of like cancel their intent and kind of learn about something about what they would like to do. So I think we kind of need to capitalize on our setups there. I think that's the main thing. It felt like our hip wrap, in terms of its form and accuracy, is like not quite there yet. It seems like a common thing that we're seeing with a lot of our left-handed fighters in this area is we're getting leg shots a lot. That hip shot, being able to hit that as a lefty is absolutely critical, because that's like your number 2 shot. I think starting off with dark sides for a fighter on the left in the black is smart, because that seems to be the theme of the evening for sure. Okay, so we lost an arm and we're kind of patient with the person. I like the frolicking, it's fun. Right in the shoulder. Alright, so I think what I'm seeing here from the fighter in the black, a couple of things. It looks like, I think it's the YouTube. So it looks like we're kind of just throwing straight shots without kind of setting anything up or drawing them out of position. It looks like we're just trying to take accurate snipes at things from like the longest range that we can, and that's fine. But we're like a little bit static with our footwork, where we're not retreating very much, we're not advancing very much, we're not moving laterally. We're just kind of doing the best that we can to hit them where they are in space and where we are in space. And you really need to start thinking about like, how could I use the ground and the terrain around me to dictate like, where is this fight going to go? So I think it's just kind of a situation where like our goblin friend over here, it seems like they want to do like kind of a Soul Calibur, Valdo-ish, like I'm in a very funny stance that's going to make it so that you kind of can't predict what I'm doing, right? By like holding myself in this awkward stance. And generally the way that you deal with awkward stances is like, yes, they are doing something kind of silly right now to mask their intent, and that's fine. But they still have to like obey the laws of physics and physiology with like how shots are made with like their kind of form, right? So if you've got someone who's like kind of like dancing and swaying and doing strange stuff, there's a couple of things that you can use to try to find their real intent. So you can stutter at them, you could throw a safe shot to their hand if you're sure that you can like get back and block. You can wait them out and back up if they try to advance on you until they decide that they're like ready to fight you a little bit more seriously. Usually when someone takes like a goofy stance, they're going to kind of play like a bit of a gimmicky game with you, and you need to be careful in how you advance on them and kind of wait them out and get their real game plan to come out if you're not already familiar with the thing that they're doing. So I think that that's kind of like standing in place and taking snipes at them is kind of like the opposite of that, right? Like that's kind of playing into like the goofiness of their stance. So you need to like move around and use the resource of the space around you to try to figure out like, what are they really going to do? Oh, what a wrap. Was it just straight? Oh, that's like speed on that. That was really good. I'm going to see if there's any setup, or is that just, oops, that's going to make it even faster. I'm going to see if it's a setup or just raw. It looks like it's just raw. There's like the tiniest little body stutter on that. Let me see. I want to see like how this made them react. Yeah, there was like a tiny little upward stutter, and you can see over the last couple of frames, this shield moved up a little bit. That was fast. That was fast. That's also kind of like why you don't want to stand too close to someone, because you're kind of giving them the time to coil up and throw like a really fast, precise shot like that. Like they've got plenty of time to aim. They've got plenty of time to plan it out. They've got plenty of time to prepare themselves. That's why you want to stay on the outside so they don't have time to do that. Because I think that like this is a person who can definitely throw a really mean wrap shot, but we kind of stood close and gave him almost a full second to do that. So I think that throwing a shot that fast is like, it's not impossible to do that if you have like that much time to set it up with, right? So I think standing a bit away from someone is a really good way of exerting pressure, because they have to step forward to come get you and hit you, right? But if you stand too close, they've got plenty of time to just like charge up that sonic boom and just like kind of let it rip. But that's a great shot. I think this was just kind of still too close, and we kind of reached over and bopped. Let's see. Okay, it looks like our confidence in our left hand is like not quite there. All right, so I think that we kind of had this in the bag, given that our speed was a little bit better. The fighter on the right, I think, is decidedly a bit faster than this fighter on the left. But I think there are a couple problems. I think we're trying to play the same range that we were playing before, where we threw that hip wrap in single sword, and you cannot do that. The extra bonus defensive coverage of having that shield is huge, right? It lets you react. It doesn't let you react faster, but you can react with much less, and you also have, since you have so much extra defensive leeway, if you react incorrectly, since the motion to cover yourself with a shield is so short, it's really easy to recover if you make that kind of mistake, right? But in single sword, you do not have that privilege, so you really have to make sure that you're maintaining a really good fighting distance from people when you're down in arm. I would make the argument that you shouldn't be there with sword and board either, but you can get away with it if you're better and faster than the other guy. In single sword, you can't. And then issue 2 is this fighter on the left kind of starts with an approach, and we kind of recess into this tucked guard back here with a vertical sword. We want our guard to be diagonal like this, right? Because this is going to be a lot more likely to be perpendicular to any high quadrant shot that they throw. And we want to make sure that we're moving backwards enough to restrict them to those high quadrants, unless they drive by very slowly. So like drive by very quickly and very deeply. So we could probably make the assumption that the fighter on the right, since they're a lot lighter than the fighter on the left, they should be able to maintain that distance pretty easily and stop them from getting into those low quadrants. So I would try to maintain more of a distance here. I feel like I feel like this definitely could have gone for the fighter in the right, but those two mistakes there made it go towards the fighter on the left instead. All right, no, he got hit in the arm for that too. I think that still could have been a win though. That's a really good two-piece combo. We went with I think that this was just kind of like a flat tap to this shield over here. It just didn't really have much of a chance of hitting, which is fine. I think it's going to draw the shield up a little bit. And it looks like our fighter in the black tunic went low. It hit leg and then arm, I think. Oops. I like that combo too, where it was like an upward sweep and then a horizontal cross like that. That's a great one. I might steal that for myself. People tend to call that upward sweep this way, a bear paw. So I think like bear paw with a horizontal step and then a horizontal shot after that. I think that would have been even more powerful if we stepped this way a little bit. But it looks like we got legs, so maybe that's why we didn't. Some of these are kind of starting like mid-exchange. I'm not going to go over that last one. That started like in the middle of the fight. It's kind of a hip wrap. That's a little bit too short too. We'll start with this one. Okay. That's really good. It felt like this fighter here was kind of exerting all the pressure, and then the fighter in the front kind of like just patiently rode them out and got them with a cross and then a wrap. I think we had like a good counter strike. I feel like this fighter here kind of let them get too close. It looks like they were driven a little bit back into the corner. We need to make sure that we maintain our ring control by like moving laterally and not letting them get too close. I think, let's go back. I'm not sure if this is going to be the best angle to kind of demonstrate this from. But you want to make sure. So this is an okay range because we would have to step forward to hit these low quadrants, but I think the rest of the fight happens from closer than this. What ends up happening is that like if you're too close to people, they can reach all four quadrants, so you have to pay attention to everything. But if you maintain this distance between people, you only have to pay attention to what's happening in those top quadrants. And if they push in close or push low, it gives you extra time to read that they're going to throw low quadrant shots at you, like money or hip wraps or hip scoops or whatever. So that's why you want to maintain that distance. I think that we're kind of too close here. Definitely too close right here. I think that the main reason that this, well, one primary reason that this fighter won is because this one got too close but didn't throw any low quadrant shots to kind of mix things up a little bit. They just got real close but then stayed high, right? Like if you get that close, you definitely want to throw money or a hip wrap or something like that. Like you have to think of it like your that top quadrant range when you're a little bit further away. That's kind of your space where you're going to throw your jabs, like if you were boxing, or your straight punches. And when you get closer, that's when you're going to throw like your hooks and your uppercuts, which are like your power shots that are definitely are more likely to kill people, but they leave you more open, so you are more likely to get hit for them, right? So you want to kind of use those two shots and those two spaces to make sure that you're minimizing the risk of yourself getting hit. Yeah, I think we rushed that one. and kind of got up close and wanted to scrap too quickly, probably like the excitement of the tournament or something like that, you definitely want to take your time, size your opponent up, do as much circling as you can, and try to figure out like what does my opponent want, what do they intend to do, so that you can either deny them that or capitalize on it. But you don't want to feel pressured to run up and just start swinging without like a plan or giving yourself any time for like analysis or reading your opponent. All right, so this is a good distance keeping right here. Like this is solid. This fighter could reach these top quadrants with a very small step forward and would have to take a big step forward to hit low quadrants, so that's good stuff. Then we kind of went in. Oh, that's a huge shield. I feel like what I would want to do in this position with a shield like this, I like how he kind of planted this in the ground. I figured what I would want to do is kind of like lean back and forth around it and see if I could like get into kind of a dark side position, especially since we're kind of like moving our sword back so far this way. I feel like that would be a good place to start for like just creating some mix-ups with this thing. It's massive. And we kind of like moved it out of the way to swing, which I think got through because the shield is kind of small on the other side. All right, so I got a couple of notes here. So with really small shields like this, you definitely don't want shield foot forward. It's not big enough to cover your shoulder and cover your hip, right? I would argue that this is too small of a shield for a sword board tournament. I think you want something that's a little bit bigger. But to make this work, is that Fert on the right? Okay, cool. I think to make this work, you need sword foot forward, because the main advantage from a shield this small is that it covers your sword arm while you are aggressively taking snipes at your opponent and using your footwork to kind of like cancel out the disadvantage that you have of having like a smaller shield. So the trade-off for the shield size is you get access to more creative stuff. It helps you move around a little bit more. It's easier to transition between dark sides and create coverage for that sword arm. But by like holding our sword the whole way back here, like we're losing out on all of that. And this fighter here is like surprisingly good with their shield and are like blocking very accurately, which I like really appreciate. And it's like a high skill thing to do. But I think that we need this moving closer to our sword arm. This is basically like you want to roll this like you're playing single sword with a really big immortal hand block, right? I think this fighter could definitely make this work. It looks like they're pretty tall and skinny, so they're able to probably going to have like faster footwork. I think it was smart for Fert to try to leg them to cut down on that advantage. So this is not this is an unenviable position to be in when you have this piece of equipment. I think that Bell has the same rule, correct me if I'm wrong, as Amtgard, where if the dead leg is on the ground, you can hold it forward and it doesn't take a second wound, which is fine. But I think that that's not enough of an advantage to kind of fight in a counterintuitive way with the equipment that you've chosen. I think I would still want this sword foot forward. And you could also argue that by having the unwounded leg forward, you can create a good bait that would entice this guy to overextend and throw low at that leg. And you just drop down and cover it and then snap their arm when it comes out, which is kind of like the only option that you really have available in this situation. I think Furt did a really good job of being patient here and kind of fighting from long range and kind of picking him off out of the way. I think what it looks like they're trying to do is very safely attack this extended shield to try to get the sword to come out and then counter strike that sword. I think that's a good game plan. I think you can also just like approach, stutter the shield out of the way and smack them, because most of their defense is created by their ability to move back or move laterally. And if they can't hold the range anymore, they really kind of can't protect themselves. So I feel like I would probably start with maybe a couple of good snipes to the shield, and then I would try to stutter with the same snipe that I used, step in and try to fake them out. I think like Furt's using a center grip shield too, and I'm not harping on their shield foot forward because I think it's maybe not optimal, but it's something that you can do with a larger punch shield, but you cannot do that with a smaller punch shield. With a smaller punch shield, you really need sword foot forward.
According to Vass's hand, there's been one fight cord lock.
I don't even know what that shot was, but that was good. I think that might have been like a forearm. It looks like we just had a really good leg sweep. And what did we get here? That must have been forearm. That was a hell of a good shot. There's that really shallow. Why did that work?
According to Vass's hand, there's been one fight cord lock.
So I think what would happen here, if I can take a guess, is basically like when you're in this kneeling position here, we discussed it a little bit before, but you're kind of limited to counter striking in a lot of ways because you can't control the distance anymore. So you sort of just have to like take the opportunities that are presented to you. I think that the fighter on the left knew that and kind of juked at them a little bit or stuttered to get them to swing and just did a really short snipe of the forearm. I think it's a very smart thing to do when you have someone legged.
1-1.
Kind of going for it again. I think this was just like an overly ambitious shot for this leg, and they threw this leg shot so hard that they like stumbled and knocked themselves out of position and just kind of just got crossed for it. I feel like it's just like an experience error, basically, but it kind of just just like lost that fight for themselves.
They said cord lock. That's what important.
This will be audible. He said course.
Right, because he moved a posted leg. You're probably smarter than me.
Did they move a posted leg? Oh my gosh, they took that really personally too. You kind of read his lips from the back of his head. He's like, I did not move. It moved a tiny bit. That is alright. I'm not going to adjudicate that. That's fine. So we're looking at this Bacon and Aldrich fight. Yeah, I think that this was just like we kind of just tried to cross too fast. I think one thing that's important. The break should be in 15 minutes, I think. I think basically what we needed here was we've got Bacon is in this leaning stance here, and this is not not a bad stance, but I think that the issue with it is that this pulls us down and away from this high cross territory that we needed to throw. We want to have like a straight posture for that, and you also want to throw what's called an armored cross, where like instead of just high crossing with your shield, you actually high cross and touch your shield to your wrist as you cross, and it just totally protects you from getting dark-sided. Sometimes you can hit them for them trying. It also counters other dark side or other high crosses as well. So I think that like it looks like Aldrich's got some really sharp dark sides, and that's a thing that you kind of always have to be ready for. I think that like if you're fighting somebody that you don't know, that one of the best things to do is just stutter a high cross and see what they do. If it looks like they're going to creep over into a dark side, like they start kind of lifting their shield up and slipping their sword down underneath it, then you know that like, okay, they're going to try to dark side me. I can try to do like a dark side counter strategy or something like that. So anyway, we're talking about that armored cross and how it's just a good idea to just, when you're fighting somebody you don't know, just stutter the high cross and see what they do and keep it in your back pocket, because a lot of the times they'll tell you if they want to dark side or not. So that's my suggestion. To Bacon's credit, they were very close to shoving them out. That was pretty solid. Good cross. What a shot. That was really good. That was quite good. I like this passive bait up here, where it's like, I've got this covered. I want you to swing down here. And then it worked out, and looks like they got the crossover taught. So when someone gives you a big passive bait like that, the best thing that you can do is pump at it like you're going to hit it and then hit them somewhere else, right? Because they're basically saying like, hey man, I have a plan. Let's do some improv theater. I want you to give me a yes and. I want you to swing right here. And you want to be a don'ter and say, no, you can go and block there on your own time. I'm going to hit you somewhere else. So it's definitely a situation where like you got to kind of watch for, you have to make a judgment call where you're like, is this a serious stance, or do they like want me to do something specific? And then if they feel like they're kind of giving you some shit and trying to bait you, just stutter at the bait and then see what they do. And a lot of the times you can just react and hit them for it. But that's a very good accuracy on Aldrich's part.
That was so fun. That was so fast.
Big ol' hip wrap.
That was so fun.
That was a good like upward stutter to hip wrap. Good stuff. I think this is Fart again on the left, correct?
Yay, arrows.
I like the Rees are like calling and watching for stuff and asking questions. And like resetting things. That's good reaving. I think for Furt, One thing I'm noticing, I hope that they see this, is they're taking like a very specific posture before they swing. Back. We need to swing from more positions than just one. So let's see if we can go back a little further. It's right here. Back. Right here. So this, I think before almost all of our shots, we're kind of loading our sword back here like this. And like you definitely need like some form of chambering to be able to throw with convincing force. I would encourage you to modify your chambering through pelling so that your chambering comes from a guard. I like to teach people to throw from 90, 90, 90 to start, where you're like, you hold your arm 90 degrees out and 90 degrees up like that and 90 degrees down like this. But you don't stick with that, right? Like you want to, that's just like a basic platform that you learn shots from, because really you have like, I feel like theoretically speaking, all of your chambered positions to throw shots also need to be your guards too, because that's when you would throw, right? It's like after you catch a block. So I would maybe start chambering with the sword. Like we want to just turn this wrist a little bit. It's not the best arrow in the world, so that the sword is kind of slanted over this way. Like you can chamber from right there too. It's just like a matter of some pelling and practice. But I think you need to maybe take a look at this chambering posture with your sword way back here, because it feels like kind of an obvious tell that you're saying like, okay, it's attacking time. So that's a micro optimization for FERT if they manage to catch this stream. I think we kind of watched this already.
Hey, are you a bugbear? Bugbear?
Drop these captions off. I liked how this fighter opened the fight. There was lots of lateral movement, lots of needling. Okay, cool. Glad you're here. There's lots of lateral footwork, lots of needling, lots of position changes. I feel like our fighter in the right eventually like kind of said like cut the shit, and then came in close to try to like mash on them, right? Which is fine. You just have to be aware of like that needling and lateral movement on the outside. That can kind of entice people to try to rush you down too. So you just need to be prepared to kind of deal with that. What you would want to do is like, so this was like, we had forward, back, and then big left step. And I think that was just too long. I think we would want like forward, shot, left step as like an egress. And you want to like not let them get set and comfortable and confident enough to like rush you down. You want to try to pick at them from long range if you're going to try to use that fast Apollo Creed footwork on the outside. I think that cross was very close to landing too. I think we had the right idea. It's just hard to recover from this situation. Where like we had lots of circling, lots of in and out. We had lots of like kind of impulses with the sword. I think maybe this started going kind of south when we pivoted the whole way around here. But then we kind of stopped pivoting here. I think what we should have done instead is try to cut back and then kind of alternate our directions and keep circling, but keep like kind of alternating whether you're stepping left or stepping right to make sure that the guy on the ground never really gets the chance to settle in and take a clear aim at like what they want to hit. Because like you have a very high chance of getting sniped if you're too close when you're down an arm and they're legged and single sword. Because that's what they're looking for, right? It's like long range snipes or counter strikes. Oh, I like that stutter right there to try to open things up. That's good. Auto circling. Yeah, I kind of tried that with a cross there. This was smart. So let's go back. So this is exactly what I've been talking about, where you're trying to read your opponent's intent. You'll see that this fighter does a quick pump at their opponent to try to see what they're going to do. You're going to see this fighter lift their hand up, like they're going to take a swing, and then our friend on the right over here, they throw a dark side because they think that they're going to try to the person on the ground is going to try to counter strike them. So like a dark side is kind of like an anti-counter strategy, right? So that's perfect execution of like trying to figure out your opponent's intent. We're saying to ourselves, okay, our friend is legged now. Maybe the context of their plan is going to change. Let's see what we're going to do. So it's like pump, dark side, right there, right? I think it was like a little bit mistimed. I maybe wouldn't try to throw two of those. I would maybe like dark side and scoop, or dark side close in and money, or maybe dark side and shoulder wrap or something like that. That it was still a very smart way of trying to figure out their intent. I think we kind of just like cross-trapped them at that point. Yes, Equinox's bell. I don't remember where. I was told where this was and I don't remember. Yeah, we just kind of had him in the corner and mashed him out after getting that arm. Bell in Tennessee. Okay, yeah, it was. I think Winter War was in Alabama. I forget who I just asked that. So push him over. Yeah, maybe they're being polite or something. Dislike contact. Yeah, that's not my favorite. Here we got a goblin friend again. So this is kind of like this is again what I'm kind of saying about like goofy stances and goofy postures, is I think our opponent on the left didn't really take it seriously enough. They didn't get killed for it, and I think they kind of beat him out on timing and precision. But I think that he's getting a little bit too close to someone who is doing something rather erratic. I think I want to be a little bit more careful and try to draw out like what is their actual intent right now. I think we kind of like the trap here is like this person's being goofy, so they're like, okay, well, they're not going to take me seriously, and then they'll suddenly do something very serious after kind of like lowering your guard a little bit with some goofy behavior. So we got leg down. Let's see, go back to this leg. I am really surprised that there are so many leg shots and people are not like checking people. They're being very polite, I guess. I feel like this would be a fairly good position to stop someone from checking you over, because if you saw them try to rush you down, you could at least push down with this leg to try to like push them back and not get bowled over though. So I hadn't thought about that before. I really want to play more cross game stuff, but I really don't think that my knees would like if I like lay back down this way when I'm on the knee. I might just call dead or post or something. So I feel like this. Whoa, whoa, whoa! We went way back. I think that was here. So our Goblin Bud, they kind of went into, I think if this is the correct fight, they kind of went into like a lot of repeated dark sides. But like this, from this position, like right here, like you can just push this forward and there's plenty of real estate to like throw across over here. Because this shield is like not even facing the correct direction. You want to kind of, when people are dark siding you and staying in that position, you kind of want to slide your shield into their hand so that they can't unfurl from that crossed over position. So all we needed to do is take this shield, which is a punch, so it's made for this, is push it in here and then just cross them over the top. It's like one of those things that like you have to kind of get used to people throwing dark sides and stuff, but it's a very good tactic for making dark sides into basically a death sentence. That's a good shoulder rep. Alright, I think what we got here. So this is a little bit too much like hang and bang right here. We're getting in close and throwing repeated shots and not really like respecting the other guy's sword very much. We're like, now I'll just block it with my shield and swing back at the same time. I would like to see a little bit more care on the timing. I think one thing that you can kind of infer from this posture where a sword is raised up kind of tight like this is definitely like a counter-strike stance. They've essentially like preloaded tension into their tricep so that it can extend at any time, essentially. So all you need to do is pump your sword at them so that they counter-strike into the air and then hit them for it afterwards, right? So I think that this is an important kind of position to look for, is this loaded swing stance. And additionally, like there is no guard here, right? Like the only thing that this guard is going to kind of cover is like a high quadrant shot to like this tiny little tunnel here that you can get like almost anything else, right? So you just need to kind of get him to swing and then you can kill him for it. You kind of just like let him creep in. I can agree with like he came really close, so we kind of didn't try to take the leg shot right away because we want to get his leg, so we want to try to get him to throw first so he locks himself in place for us to hit that leg. But I feel like we're kind of just like, there it is. Actually, it was there. It was there. They did exactly what I was asking for, where it's like there's a little stutter here. It's perfect. I might have swung like a little bit lower to make sure that I didn't get simuled, but that's the basic premise for sure. They got that correct. One of the nice things about wearing protective eyewear, aside from not needing reconstructive surgeries to your eyeballs after 25 years of fighting, is that if someone hits you in the eyewear and it comes off your face, you have evidence that they hit you in the face and they can't accuse you of not getting hit in the face. So that's just one little advantage that I recommend for eyewear. I think Aldrich is doing a good job of using a lot of circling. I don't know what this backward. Oh, I like that. That was weird, but I liked it. I was wondering what we were going to use with this kind of backward lean posture, but it looks like the intent here is to drive the tip of this shield into the bottom of Aldrich's shield and then wrap over the top at the same time. It's very creative. I would not have thought of that. It's a tough situation to deal with because this is a really big shield. I like how he's also taking the time to brace the bottom of his shield against his leg for extra stability too. That's good shield work. You see so few tower shields in Amp so it's nice to see that there is like a technique to it and it's not just shield be big. I think this was a situation where like when someone takes this dark side position, you can just stuff this shield. You can stuff your shield forward and pin them in this so that they can't get out of it, and then just kind of cross or wrap them at your leisure, essentially. Especially since I believe that this tower shield is also a punch. So this be, especially since he hung out for like a second dark side there, you can also just like throw a wrap into the shield, right? Like you could just hit him underneath. So I think it's like if someone wants to throw like multiple dark sides from that position, you can do it in the same way that you would throw like a cross trap where you move like laterally while you kind of machine gun out that shot. But I think that like if you've got multiple dark sides coming in from here, you should definitely try to pin their shield down to try to kill them for it. So I like the idea that Aldrich had where we're like, okay, Darkside's not working. We need to go for this shoulder. But we already impressed on them that we're going to Darkside repeatedly, right? So one thing that I think Aldrich could have done is a Darkside fake to sweep out under and wrap over. But that was kind of just a raw shoulder wrap snipe. And I think that like because the wrap takes like an extra tenth of a second or two because of the turnover. It's not long, but it's long enough that you can't really just like throw that raw at someone like as a snipe unless they're like really not paying attention. And I think that this guy's clearly paying attention and he's got his shoulder relatively well covered. So for tower shields, I find it good to get close and circle towards their shield. It makes them hard for them to respond. Yeah, that's a good counter strategy for it. I think we can't do that right now because we're lagged, but I think that that's probably the counter strategy that I would use. I think I would try to engage them at long range and try to counter their forearm first. And then when we got close, that's kind of what I would try to do. Oh, I love this spin attempt. I love this spin attempt. Like, A for effort. But, like, I feel like it was not an optimal choice. Because it's like you have both legs. You have all the control. I understand wanting to go for, like, a stylish shot. But I think that playing it safer would have been a little bit more effective there. And that was a good fight. That was a good fight. Smart use of a tower shield, too. So you got Furt. Yeah, I think, like, generally speaking, the people in this tournament are standing too close to each other and are getting their legs sniped a lot. Like, you need to defend that leg by not getting too close to your opponent. I love the side to side that Furt's using here. Lots of lateral, both left and right, to keep them from settling in. That's really good. I'm not Well, let's just wait for it to finish. That was really good. That's a good combo. So I'm not super confident in the purpose of threatening the dark side at a left-handed fighter, because like we talked about before, the priority of the 4 quadrants changes a little bit. Like, I'll draw it one more time since I think we had different people kind of shuffle in, but like, that's the wrong shape. Of the 4 quadrants that we've got here, this is priority 1, this is priority 2, this is priority 3, this is priority 4, right? So a dark side from Furt's position is going to threaten probably quadrant 3 and sometimes quadrant 4. But I feel like that is a really hard fake to sell. I think it's like a good mix-up to try to impress on them that you might go there. But I think that if I wanted to threaten quadrant 3 or quadrant 4, I would probably just like threaten like just a normal cross with my shield on my forearm to do that instead of trying to go like into a dark side position, because that's kind of something that you have to prove that you can hit them with, because it's such a difficult shot to do. And if you're kind of just impressing upon them that you might do it, it's so rare for people to be able to do that unless you've done it before, it's probably just not going to work much. It's also fine to just kind of like oscillate between stances on the outside. But I kind of questioned that choice a little bit. I think, but this is very good, right? We've got him in the leg. We're moving left. We're moving right. We're trying to hunt for our opportunities. I think we're losing an opportunity a little bit with some of these shots out here, where we're not shifting our shield over towards our sword arm. So if we shift our shield over towards the sword arm, we protect ourselves from that fast vertical chop, which is sort of like a lefty's bread and butter, right? And we also entice them to try to go to quadrant 3, which is like extremely easy to block and retaliate against as well, too, right? So in a hand match scenario with the center grip shield, I really think that you should kind of just like slide your defense over to your sword side and try to be like, hey, sucker, come on. Try to hit my shield side. Try to go for like the stylish move and then just kind of counter them for it, right? So it's just very frustrating and can block a lot of that stuff off. I think the purpose that I'm seeing here of these quadrant 3 shots, where we're like kind of in this dark side position from here, and we just kind of throw straight down here, I think is to try to entice the legged opponent to shift their shield to the right to try to open that up a little bit more. I like that theory, but I would do that with something that looks more like a wrap instead of a straight chop, because we know that the straight chop can't get around that shield. But a wrap we actually like have to worry about and be threatened by. And you could just kind of slide the shield over a little bit more and just kind of wrap around it. And you can throw that wrap shallow so that it's safe too, and you don't like overextend yourself if you're just trying to pry the shield away from their body. A good patience by the guy on the ground too. Because he's waiting very carefully for his opportunity. I think I would also like to see on the back half of this fight, it looks like we kind of went for a lot of low wraps around to the outside here. Like, that's fine, but we went for 3 in a row. I think I want to see one low wrap around here and then one vertical chop down to this forearm to try to mix that up, right? Because you're trying to wrap the outside of the hand to get them to cheat their hand outside a little bit, and then you're trying to drop down in to kind of hit that wrist. Yeah, that last one was kind of like we got the position a little bit twisted like that. We're like get mashed on, cross trap. That's pretty simple stuff. Fight 2. Yeah. This was so I think this fighter was like, you know what, I'm faster and more accurate than you. I'm just gonna mash on you. I think that the main mistake that this fighter made was they didn't try to leverage any footwork to gain distance away from their opponent. I think they were trying to like match them on the attributes that their opponent was strong in. So the guy on the right has like very fast, compact shots, is able to combo really well and throw like multiple shots in a row. I feel like the fighter on the left is like, I have to beat them at that. Fox, thank you. The fighter on the left decided to try to like beat them at the game that they're strong at, and you don't want to do that. You want to try to find like a different way to win. I would have used like any kind of like backward movement, lateral movement, like anything to keep them from just like outspeeding you on the inside. Because you couldn't. I think it looks like Fox is a little bit smaller than the person on the left. Tress, thank you. Fox is a good bit smaller than Tress, and the thing about being shorter and having shorter muscles is that you just are naturally more explosive than taller people. There's like a genetic variance in there for sure, and an athletic variance, that most of explosiveness is genetic, right? But smaller people tend to have, since the muscle is like shorter, it tends to contract faster because like that impulse doesn't have to go quite as far through your muscles as a taller person does. So the taller person probably needs to decide like, hey, it's very unlikely that I'm going to be faster than a shorter person unless there's a big experience gulf between us. So I want to try to fight at range and trick this guy on the outside a little bit. And I think we just didn't do that here. I think we just tried to kind of fight Fox on Fox's terms. And of course, like, Fox won for that. Was this the same fight? I think it got spliced back in. No, it's just slightly different. Same basic deal.
I always wonder if it's better to leg your opponent or not.
I got the same critiques as the previous ones. It looks like kind of a repeat of the fight. Yeah, so that was just going raw outside too many times, and our kneeling fighter kind of just decided to take the risk of a counter strike. What would have saved you here is if you had slid this shield a little bit over onto your arm like we were discussing before, and it draws him to want to overextend and attack those lower priority quadrants. So I think that's just like the main element of losing that arm here. It's kind of an unenviable position because like where we want to go is around this way, but we can't because the ring is here. So I think what I would want to try to do is maybe try to back up a little bit to see if you can, or especially like if you drew him kind of down this way by circling out and kind of just being a little bit frustrating and trying to encourage them to come out so that they would give you this area that you could kind of circle around and hit him with. But right now, like the direction that you want to go is kind of closed off. So I think it's smart to try with these like long range snipes here. It's kind of the best that you can do. And he seems like he very much does not want to go forward. What was that ear? Butts. Yeah, I think maybe it looked like you were kind of trying to get him out of the corner so you could use that area, and he's like, I'm not moving, fuck you. Which is smart counter strategy. It happens. Headshots happen, man.
Final four, first fight, Aldrich versus Fox. Yay, Florida.
So Fox and Aldrich. Yay, Florida. Final four. Okay, thank you. I think this was Brotherhood of Red, guys. What's a Brotherhood of Red? I think this was just like a great dark side, super quick.
Thank you.
I liked, whoops, gotta go back a second. I like this double loop into, okay, we're back. I like the Aldrich's double loop into like a money shot. That was a really cool setup. It's like 3. So that's a good like kind of impulse where that, I think it was a clockwise loop from Aldrich's perspective. It's going to look like, hey, I'm going to shoulder wrap you. I think maybe we tried to impress that upon him too many times since we did like 3 loops like that. And the other part is money shots or committal. You can't just kind of throw it from a safe range. You have to step in and lunge to be able to get the angle that you need for them. So I think that was probably the main reason that didn't kind of work out. So I think it looked like Fox kind of got hit on the grind there. I like that little body feint right there. So I think that looked like it was going to be a big shoulder wrap, but we turned it into a high cross. But I think that's kind of backwards because most of that last engagement was just like an exchange of high crosses, right? So I feel like we tried to fake into the thing that we just did. We want to fake the thing that we just did into something else. I'm very envious of Fox's dark sides. That's super fast. That was a good cross trap where we kind of laid that cross on and then advanced and moved a little bit laterally, I think, to sword side. So that was really good stuff. So Furt.
Once again, final four.
Do you have a name for the fighter on the right?
5, I think is the year. This is Furt versus Vaughn.
Is it Khan? And that Vaughn, thank you. Got one of those letters right. The N. Okay. All right, Fred's using a really good lateral here. And good in and out. Just like you can't get comfortable at the range that you want. That's good. Okay, I think we kind of held that range maybe a little bit too long and kind of slowed our lateral and in and out footwork down and kind of got a little bit still right there. And you were still, I think that was the fourth shot in a row where they were like different shots. You had some crosses and some undersided scoops in there, but they're all kind of targeting this front forearm. You can do more than one, but you don't want to go to four. Especially when your footwork is still. I think that in this situation where you are down an arm, I'm not super sure about the decision to try to leg them because you have to reach really deep into your sphere of range to hit them. Let me see if I can draw it for you. So shoulders right here. It's always really hairy to kind of draw this. Let's see. So it probably looks about like this. So you can see since Vaughn's kind of flat here, right? The distance between these top quadrant shots as your sphere gets closer to them, right? It's kind of like much. It's like a little bit larger, right? So this doesn't kind of look like much, but I think like dropping your full sphere down, it does make this leg like closer. But I think that this is trying to swing down here is going to open up too much. The opportunity that you would have to get to swing on someone's leg while you're down an arm is more like you have to get them offline so that they're facing the wrong direction and can't really advance on you. And then you hit them in the leg as you step away offline. But you need to make them, you have to make them have some kind of like pivoting or directional error with lateral movement to be able to open up that leg shot. I think most of the time, like this is an unenviable position and really hard to fight your way out of. But I think what it's really going to look like is you safely holding the distance between the two fighters as you back up. Try to get him to overextend on a desperate shot, preferably to like your outside forearm over here, and then you just get him with like a simple chop down. I think it's like the main way that people end up doing this. Or if you can kind of get him to lock down defensively, then you might kind of pop up and cross over his shield shoulder. But I think that those are the main strategies, with throwing a leg shot to try to even the score being kind of like a distant third thing that you would do. It's just too committal, and then when you throw into a leg, it's just one of those shots that kind of never really ends up looking anything like a guard. Let's go back here. I think that this was just like... So I liked that you tried to fake him out to the outside here and then throw in. But I think that he was kind of like on Counter-Strike mode. So he just swung into your fake, right? It looks like, I think you got him too, so you traded arms. But I think you really need to make sure that they are in a defensive mode before you try to start using feints. And you need to test that out first by throwing safe shots. I think a big feint for a kill as the first shot of a round is not a great plan. You can make the argument that, like, since Vaughn won the last one from taking your arm, he probably feels some sense of momentum, right? So he's like, I'm going to walk up and smoke this motherfucker. So trying to fake someone out, like, out of that momentum is a very likely time when you're going to kind of get Counter-Strike for your troubles. Like, feinting is something you usually do more of when you've already, when you've built the need for your opponent to, like, play defensively. It's not like a aggressive play unless, like, your faking game is really fucking good, or you have like a reach advantage where they have to play defensively even though they have that momentum. I think you've kind of got neither here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it happens. We're just trying to figure out why. Okay, this is going to be Fox and Vaughn, right? Good defense by both fighters here.
Good honor.
I'm not sure. Okay, it looks like he, it looks like Vaughn called that was like his pelvis or his hip or something like that. That was a good shot. I want to see how that happened. So that's like a good dark side on the inside. It looks like Fox read that Vaughn wanted a dark side out of that and threw a hip wrap, which is basically like a counter shot for the dark side. Like if you know someone's good at dark side, you just kind of like throw laterally to their hip. And it looks like Fox got it. Yeah, that was good. That was a great snipe. That's your fast reaction speed too. I don't know if he fights Vaughn regularly or something like that, but sometimes you can just like tell when people want a dark side because they just have like a certain body posture or something like that, especially if you've seen them a lot before. The dark sides are also kind of like slowish since they have like a staging period where you have to slip your shield over, so maybe just beat that on pure reaction. That's good though. The fast money. They're also, I want you guys to notice that these two guys are keeping really good range right now from each other, right? Like you would have to take a good lateral step forward, not lateral step forward, a good forward step to be able to hit each other from here. And that buys you a lot more time to react because the guy steps forward on you and you know that he's coming to swing at you. It just helps simplify the timing of the fight a lot. That's a good wrap over the top. How did that work? Hi, buddy. I know. Is it just raw, huh? You know what made this work is that the center line is right here. And Fox is just like off of it a little bit. So this is a really important thing that makes shoulder wraps work well as a snipe. Is if you're off the center line, a lot of the time you can get the angle that you need to go over the top. So I think we kind of just, we walked over. I don't know if we like, I think there's like two ways of getting off that center line, and it looked like what happened was that Fox did kind of like a slower walk here, but when he hit this key spot here, he kind of drove in forward. So like as he moved laterally, Fox kind of impressed upon Vaughn the idea that he was going to keep circling that way, but because he kind of shot forward, it looks like Vaughn was kind of not ready for that angle to happen there. And the other thing that you can do is if you kind of go at a slow pace alongside this arc and suddenly shoot a little bit faster, that's another way that you can kind of get offline. But offline is like really key for landing shoulder wraps, so that was really solid. I'm glad there was an example of that too. Good sportsmanship.